Hello friends, today's topic of discussion is risk and return. The following topics we will discuss in two parts. In the first video, we will cover up to risk and return of a single asset, and rest of the topics we will discuss in the next part. Fine. So, firstly, let us understand the meaning of risk and return. Return is the profit on an investment. In the simplest term, it is the money made or lost on an investment over some period of time. Return may be measured in actual term or in relative term. And what do we mean by risk? As we all know that future is uncertain, so actual return may vary from expected return. Now, what are these actual and expected return? Actual return is the return which has realized from any investment. Fine. An expected return is the return which we expect from any investment. For example, if we expected 50,000 as a return from any investment but received only 40,000 as an actual return, so this variation in actual return is known as risk. Fine. Let us learn more about risk and return. Risk and return are two dimensions of the market price of a share. If the return is more certain of a particular investment, then project is less risky. For example, if we invest in government security, it is always less risky as return from these securities are more or less assured. But if we invest in shares of the company, the return expected from these shares may fluctuate. So risk is attached to the investment in the shares of the company. Fine. At the same time, if the return from an investment proposal increases, the risk attached to that proposal also increases. So, financial manager is always required to maintain a trade-off between risk and return. Fine. We will learn to measure risk and return in two parts. In the first part, we will measure risk and return of a single asset, and in the next part, we will measure risk and return of a portfolio. So, let us discuss these one by one. Risk and return of a single asset. First, we are learning to measure returns. Under measuring returns, first is rate of return. From any investment, there are two ways of getting return. First, in the form of interest or dividend, and second, in the form of capital gain or loss. Fine. We receive interest on debentures and receive dividend on equity shares, and we earn capital gain or loss because of change in the price of the assets. So basically, there are two ways of getting return. First is interest or dividend, and second is capital gain. So rate of return will be sum of dividend yield plus capital gain. Therefore, rate of return can be calculated as expected dividend divided by beginning price multiplied by 100 plus ending price minus beginning price divided by beginning price multiplied by 100. Return is calculated in percentage term as absolute return has no meaning. In the earlier slide, I have told that return can be measured in absolute as well as relative term. Yes, this is true. But when it comes for comparison, then return must be calculated in percentage term because we cannot compare two returns of the investment which are in absolute term when the scale of investment is different. Fine. So for comparison purpose, return must be calculated in percentage term only. Fine. Second method of measuring return under single asset is arithmetic mean of return. Arithmetic mean is the simplest and most widely used measure of mean. Arithmetic average return is the return on investment calculated by simply adding the returns of all the years and dividing it by total number of periods. So we have the formula for calculating arithmetic mean of return, that is sum of rate of return of all the period and divided it by total number of periods. But there are two drawbacks of arithmetic mean of return, that is, it ignores the compounding effect and order of return. Plus, arithmetic mean of return misleads when the investment return are volatile. Volatile means if the return fluctuates rapidly in short time span. So, let us understand this with the help of an example. So we have the example of arithmetic mean, that is a person invested 100 million in a project and the return for first 5 years was 5%, 8%, minus 2%, 12% and 9% respectively. Fine. If we will calculate the investment value after 5 years, then according to compounding technique we will get the value 135.67 million. But according to average return, we have the value 145.09 million. So why there is a difference in between these two? Why arithmetic average return overstating the return? This is because it ignores the order of return. For example, the decline of 2% occurred in the investment when it had grown by 5% and 8% in the previous year. But arithmetic average return ignores the compounding effect. So basically what is happening here, if you will see again in the question, there is a decline of, in the third year, it is given that rate of return is minus 2% on 100 million. So, if we will calculate according to arithmetic mean of return, then third year return is minus 2 million. But according to compounding technique, third year return is minus 2.268 million. So, why arithmetic mean of return showing less decline by 0.268 million? Because arithmetic mean of return ignores the compounding effect, and that's why arithmetic mean of return showing overstated return. So this is the drawback of arithmetic mean, that it ignores compounding effect and order of return, and that's why it shows overstated return. Fine. Next method of measuring return is geometric mean of return. It is the average rate of return for a set of values that is calculated by using the product of the term. Fine. And this method also takes into account compounding effect. So this method is better than the arithmetic mean of return. Fine. Also, if we need to compare return over an extended period of time, then geometric mean of return is better formula, because this method takes into account order of return as well as compounding effect. Fine. Next is uses of geometric and arithmetic mean. See, geometric mean can be used to evaluate the past performance of an investment, whereas arithmetic mean of return can be used to find the expected rate of return for future period. Arithmetic mean of return cannot be used to evaluate the past performance of an investment, because this method misleads when investment returns are volatile. This we have already discussed. And next is, there exists a relationship between arithmetic mean and geometric mean, that is, geometric mean is equal to arithmetic mean minus 1 divided by 2 standard deviation of return is to the power 2. Fine. Next method is internal rate of return. This is also one of the measure of investment's expected future rate of return. IRR is a discount rate at which present value of cash inflows is equal to present value of cash outflows. Fine. And this method is superior from arithmetic mean as well as geometric mean, because IRR method considers time value of money. And also this method is based on cash flows and adopts discounted cash flow technique for adjusting time value of money. Fine. Next is expected rate of return. Expected return is the profit or loss an investor anticipate on an investment. It is a tool used to determine whether investment has a positive or negative average net outcome, and this is calculated by sum of each possible rate of return multiplied by the respective probability of earning on each return. But there is a drawback of expected return, that expected return is usually based on historical data and is therefore not guaranteed. So it is quite risky to make investment decision based on expected return alone. Fine. So we are moving to learn measuring risk. Meaning of risk we have already discussed. Risk is nothing but the variability of return from the expected return. And following are the techniques used for measuring risk under single asset. First is range, second is variance and standard deviation of returns, and last is coefficient of variation. Let us learn about these techniques one by one. First method of measuring risk is range, where different returns of an asset are possible under different circumstances. More than one forecast of the future return may be made. For example, Mr. X invested in equity shares. In favorable situation, the expected share price is $100, whereas in unfavorable situation, the expected share price is $10. So there are two different situations, that is favorable and unfavorable, and expecting different share price in different situations. So in this case, we will calculate risk with the help of range. Range can be defined as the difference between the highest possible rate of return and the lowest possible rate of return. Let us understand this with the help of an example. In the example, it is given that there are two securities, security A and security B, and there are different situations, that is pessimistic, most likely, and optimistic. And in these situations we have given different rate of returns. So in security A, the highest possible rate of return is 40 and lowest possible rate of return is 20. So the range will be 40 minus 20, that is 20. Similarly, in security B, the highest possible rate of return is 50 and lowest possible rate of return is 10. So the range will be 50 minus 10, that is 40. According to this method, an asset having higher range is said to be more risky than the one having lesser risky. So in this case, security B will be more risky because the range between pessimistic and optimistic situation is more in case of B. But there is a drawback of range, that this method considers the difference between the extreme values and ignores the probability of occurrence of such values. So range cannot be considered as an appropriate measure of risk. Fine. Next technique is variance and standard deviation of return. So let us first talk about variance. Variance is another measure of risk. Variance measures the variability from the average or mean. Therefore, the variance statistic helps in determining the risk an investor assumes when purchasing a specific security. Following are the steps for calculating variance. First is determine the deviation of individual return from the mean of expected returns. Then find the square of deviation calculated in step first, then multiply the square of deviation with their respective probabilities, and final find the sum of product of square of deviation and their respective probabilities. Fine. So there are some important points of variance that we need to remember. First is a large variance indicates that number in the set are far from mean and from each other. Fine. Next is variance can be negative. So next is a variance value of 0 indicate that all values within a set of number are identical. So this is all about variance. Next is standard deviation. Standard deviation is the most important and commonly used measure of risk. It is calculated by finding the square root of variance. An investment having smaller standard deviation will be less risky, and an investment having higher standard deviation will be more risky. Fine. Last technique is coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation shows the extent of variability of data in a sample in relation to the mean of the population. In finance, the coefficient of variation allows the investor to determine how much risk is assumed in comparison to the amount of return expected from the investment, and it is calculated by dividing the standard deviation by its expected return. And any investment having higher coefficient of variation will be more risky. Fine. Remaining topics we will discuss in the second part, so stay tuned.